Hey Libra, my soul-centered seeker. There's a message coming your way that will knock the wind out of you but not to destroy you. It's arriving to awaken something ancient, powerful, and divine inside of you. This video is here to prepare your heart for a shocking truth that's been circling your life like a whisper in the dark. And no, you're not here by accident. Let me ask you something. Have you felt that low hum of uncertainty lately? A strange pull in your chest that keeps bringing your attention back to a moment, a person, a decision? Maybe you've felt like something is about to shift but you can't explain what or why. That's because your intuition has already sensed the energy. And the message that's about to arrive? It will shake you, but it will also set you free. This is not just a horoscope reading. This is a spiritual alignment. A divine appointment. A sacred unraveling that will take you straight to the core of who you really are. Because Libra, you are the sign of justice, of balance, of inner truth. And right now, the universe is demanding that you stop carrying what no longer aligns with that truth. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a sequence of events starting with a soul-level wake-up call, moving into a hidden revelation, then leading you back into your light. There is a message being delivered to you, one that may shock you into clarity. It might come as a phone call, a dream, a confession, or even a moment of sudden silence from someone you thought you knew. And when it hits, you'll have a choice: to stay in the illusion or to rise into your authentic path. Now, before we go further, let me pause to say this. Thank you. Truly. Thank you for being here, for watching, for showing up with your full heart. Every like, every share, every comment, every subscription, that's not just a number. It's a light. A ripple. And it's what keeps the Zodiac Whisper Tarot channel alive and expanding. Your energy is part of this message too. And trust me, the words you're about to hear today were not drawn by chance. They were selected by Spirit, meant only for those ready to face what's real and rise. Now Libra, I have a question for you. What do you think called you to this video today? Was it curiosity? Was it heartbreak? Was it timing? Or was it something you still can't quite name? Drop it in the comments below. Right, I claim the truth. I balance my life. I receive what is mine. Say it not just from a but for yourself. For your soul. Because this is more than entertainment. This is a return to alignment. And trust me, what I'm about to share will not only make sense, it will hit deeply. Like a lightning bolt of clarity right through the fog you've been walking through. So if you're ready to hear what the universe has been trying to show you, stay with me until the very end. Because today everything changes. Sometimes, the very moment we feel most disoriented, like the ground has fallen from beneath us, when life is quietly asking us to stop, pause, and reconsider what we've been standing on. Libra, when you hear that shocking message, when the truth lands and knocks the wind out of you, your natural instinct might be to retreat, to hide, to analyze every detail as if you could reassemble the pieces and keep things as they were. But deep down, your soul knows, this is not meant to be a collapse. It is a reordering. It is a sacred dismantling of what no longer serves your inner alignment. The astrological landscape you're moving through right now highlights pressure points that have been building under the surface. The energy of Pluto, often called the cosmic excavator, is bringing truths to light that were too heavy to hold before. And the moon's quiet influence in your chart is softly illuminating the spaces where your needs were silenced for too long. It's no surprise, then, that this moment feels like a shock. But the shock isn't punishment, it's permission. Permission to shed the outdated roles you've been playing. Permission to take off the mask of harmony when it comes at the cost of your peace. Permission to stop managing everyone else's emotional temperature just to keep the room calm. It is okay to fall apart for a moment. It's okay to say, "This hurts. I didn't see it coming." What matters more is how you respond when the fog clears. Will you continue repeating patterns just because they're familiar? Or will you choose the unknown, where growth waits in discomfort, but also in possibility? Balance, for you, has often meant keeping others comfortable. But true balance, the kind your spirit craves, begins inside. It starts when you decide that your truth is not too much. That your voice doesn't need to be softened just to be accepted. That your needs are not an inconvenience, they are sacred signals. Even the most rational minds need space to feel. And Libra, you are so often caught between logic and empathy, between clarity and compromise, that you sometimes forget your own inner compass. This moment, the one where the truth knocks you down, is here to recalibrate that compass. To help you feel again, even if the feeling is uncomfortable. You're not being called to solve everything today. You're being called to listen. To notice what inside you rises when the dust settles. That small flicker of certainty that says, "I can't go back to what I was tolerating." From a therapeutic lens, this kind of emotional breakthrough isn't just catharsis, it's clarity. And clarity always comes before transformation. Your nervous system may respond with fear at first. That's normal. Change disrupts the illusion of safety. But what's waiting on the other side of that disruption isn't chaos, it's coherence. It's you, finally stepping into the rhythm of your own truth, without needing to justify it. There's a quiet lesson many wise people have shared over time, that you don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes, walking away from the things that cost you your peace is the most powerful act of self-respect. Not every truth needs to be confronted with resistance. Some truths simply ask to be acknowledged. And then, released. So if you're feeling shaken, remember your strength isn't measured by how quickly you bounce back, but by how gently you allow yourself to grow through this. Give yourself permission to rest. To feel the shift. To rise not as who you were before, but as who you are now becoming. And just know, even in this vulnerable moment, you are already on your way home. It doesn't always happen with warning. Sometimes, the ground slips out from under your feet when you least expect it, like walking a tightrope only to realize the line has vanished mid-step. That's how it feels, Libra, when the message comes. You might feel like your internal compass is spinning without direction, as though someone has dimmed the light you were following. You may question your clarity, your intuition, even your value. And that moment of emotional collapse can seem like failure at first glance. But it isn't. In truth, it is a sacred re-entry point into your most aligned self. When a Libra falls, it's rarely loud. You internalize before you react. You try to understand everyone else's side before acknowledging your own pain. You gather facts, analyze intentions, and even justify betrayals because peace matters to you sometimes more than truth. But when that shocking realization hits, something shifts. There's no more room for avoidance. That breaking point is where illusions dissolve, and it becomes impossible to keep maintaining the facade. This isn't weakness. It's the nervous system telling the truth. It's your soul asking to be prioritized again. Astrologically, you're a sign ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, love, and values. But sometimes, what you think is balance is actually emotional overcompensation. You've been pouring into situations that don't pour back. And this moment, this collapse invites you to pause and ask, have I been protecting peace or abandoning myself? That's a powerful question, one only someone as emotionally intelligent as you can truly sit with. From an energetic perspective, breakdowns are purification portals. They burn through pretense. They dismantle roles that have become too heavy. And the most important part? They carve out space for truth to grow. This is why the first thing I often recommend is to stop distracting yourself. Turn off the noise. Even for just a day. Log off social media. Set down your phone. Stop reading into others' reactions. You need a container where your feelings can exist without having to be justified. Then, write it out. Put it on paper, the places you've been holding in your truth to keep others comfortable. Say what you really feel. Write it even if it makes no sense. Even if it sounds too dramatic or too raw. That's how emotional integration begins. Not by fixing, but by feeling. If it helps, use color therapy to anchor yourself. Surround your space with shades of sapphire blue. That tone is especially healing for Libra, settles overthinking and brings calm to your heart chakra, where your emotions often bottleneck. This isn't a call to start arguments or burn bridges. It's a call to release the weight of keeping things pleasant at the cost of your own inner peace. And it's okay to say, I'm not okay with this anymore, even if no one else understands right away. One of the most comforting teachings I hold close is that you don't need to explain your healing to anyone. What matters is that you're honest with yourself. There is no growth without discomfort. And there is no self-worth without boundaries. So, if you're feeling like you're in free fall, I want to remind you that falling apart isn't the end, it's how the soul sheds what's too heavy to carry forward. You get to choose again now. Choose your peace. Choose your worth. Choose your path, even if it means walking away from what once felt safe. And if you're ready to claim that choice, drop a comment below. Write, I choose myself, and I no longer feel guilty for doing so. Let your own words be the first step back to your center. Just when the surface seems calm, that's often when the most significant shifts begin to stir beneath. Libra, you've always been the peacemaker, the one who smooths the ripples before they become waves, but there are moments when the truth no longer allows itself to be silenced. What appears to be stillness on the outside is often just a mirror covering turbulence that's been quietly building. And now, something once hidden is rising, gently yet unavoidably, asking to be seen with honest eyes. The influence of Pluto, the planet that rules transformation and the subconscious, paired with the reflective pull of the moon, is not a coincidence. When these two energies interact, the result is a revealing deep emotional tides that bring suppressed stories to the surface. This isn't about drama or exposure for the sake of shock. It's about reclaiming your awareness. Maybe someone close to you presented themselves as nurturing, generous, or even loving, but underneath, there was control. Subtle, quiet manipulation masked as protection. Or perhaps you missed out on an opportunity, only to realize someone quietly redirected it elsewhere, not out of care, but out of fear of your potential. It can feel disorienting when illusions shatter. There's grief in realizing something you believed in wasn't rooted in truth. But this grief is not destructive, it is cleansing. As someone who is naturally attuned to harmony and fairness, your first instinct may be to forgive too quickly or downplay what happened to keep peace intact. But peace that demands silence from your truth isn't peace. It's denial dressed in politeness. This is a moment for deep clarity. You are not being punished for trusting the wrong people or giving your best to the wrong places. You are being awakened to see the full picture so that going forward, your light is protected, your vision sharp, and your heart led by discernment rather than hope alone. The wisdom you're gaining now will become a compass that protects you from repeating cycles of subtle self-betrayal. Energetically, this is the unveiling process. And while it may sting at first, it is ultimately what frees you from the burden of maintaining appearances that cost you your authenticity. The star, as represented in tarot, often appears after a storm, the card of healing, renewal, and gentle return. It doesn't ask for grand gestures. It asks for presence, stillness, truth. That's what is being offered to you now. Let this phase become a sacred turning point, where your no becomes a full sentence, and your boundaries no longer need to come with apologies. Your intuition is not a glitch, it is your guidance system. The more you honor it, the more at home you will feel within yourself. You don't need to over-explain why something doesn't feel right. The discomfort alone is enough. As a simple, yet powerful practice, take a moment to write down 3 things that have made you feel heavy or stifled lately. Then, if it feels right, release them symbolically or literally. Burn the paper, rip it up, speak the words aloud, or bury it under a tree. Let your body and mind feel the act of letting go. Support your nervous system gently, maybe through adding magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens or sunflower seeds to your meals, or resting more deeply without guilt. Healing isn't always grand or visible. Sometimes, it's subtle and slow, like a breath finally reaching the bottom of your lungs after years of shallow survival. And if you're feeling the shift right now, let it be known. Share in the comments, I am being cleansed, and I deserve my freedom. Let that be your declaration, soft but sovereign. Let it be the beginning of your return to clarity, to light, and to peace that no longer costs you your voice. What happens when someone from your past suddenly reaches out just as you've begun to redefine your boundaries and reclaim your power? Libra, that moment can feel like an emotional crossroads. A flicker of nostalgia might rise, wrapped in memories, in familiar voices, in the comfort of what once was. But the truth is, when you've done the deep internal work, when you've rebuilt your sense of self from the inside out, something within you quietly knows, you are no longer who you were back then. And because of that, what once fit you may no longer feel right against your skin. It takes courage to acknowledge that growth sometimes demands space. That loving someone doesn't always mean keeping them in your life. When you outgrow a dynamic that once defined your world, it's not rejection, it's alignment. This chapter isn't about denying the past. It's about honoring who you've become. In astrology, when Saturn makes key aspects to Venus or your personal planets, it asks you to review the past with clarity, not rose-colored longing. And as Libra, ruled by Venus, your growth is often most visible in your evolving relationship standards, how you give love, receive it, and more importantly, how you protect your peace within it. When someone reappears now, it's not a test. It's a mirror. You are being offered the opportunity to observe how far you've come, not through blame or bitterness, but through quiet self-awareness. You no longer chase love out of loneliness. You no longer stay in conversations just to avoid discomfort. You no longer diminish yourself to be more digestible for someone who never learned how to hold your complexity with grace. This is a beautiful shift, and it deserves your recognition. As an act of self-reflection, consider writing the sentence, "I'm no longer that person," and beneath it, name 3 ways you've changed. Not as a performance, but as a celebration of how much strength you've cultivated behind the scenes. These reflections aren't just words on a page, they are the proof of your internal rebirth. And as the emotional dust continues to settle, something even more powerful begins to take shape: opportunity. This time, it's not about emotional entanglement, it's about clarity, sovereignty, and shared intention. The upcoming cycle offers fresh collaborations, grounded in mutual respect and authentic alignment. Financially, this is a period where new structures can be formed, especially if you're stepping into independent ventures or partnership-based models. The energy of the 2 of Pentacles encourages you to balance flexibility with discipline, while the Empress reminds you that creation flows best when it's rooted in self-worth and receptivity. If you've been contemplating a project or investment, this may be the time to revisit it with clearer eyes. Think practically, but allow your creative essence to guide your decision-making. Numerologically, the influence of the number 2 reminds you that duality can exist without conflict. You can be both discerning and open-hearted, both independent and collaborative. The number 3 supports expansion, inviting you to nurture what matters to you like a garden, patiently, intentionally, and with joy. To activate this new cycle, consider setting a 30-day goal around your finances. It doesn't have to be monumental. What matters is the energy behind it. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel about money? What role does it play in my freedom, my choices, my future vision? And most of all, remember this: when the old shows up again, it's never to punish you, it's to remind you that you've grown. You are not who you were before, and that's a gift. The question isn't whether they deserve to return. It's whether the version of you now feels called to let them in, or to keep moving forward, free, whole, and deeply aligned with your truth. ChatGPT.noi. When you begin to live in alignment with who you truly are without bending yourself to fit into the stories others have written for you, something magical begins to unfold. That sense of quiet joy you'd been searching for, the peace that always seemed just out of reach, finally arrives. Libra, you're entering that exact space now. And while it may seem simple on the surface, the journey to reach this state has required immense inner work, emotional detoxing, and the strength to disappoint others rather than abandon yourself. That is no small victory. This is the part of your path where you begin to see yourself clearly again, without distortion or doubt. You're not living to fulfill a role anymore. You're not showing up to perform kindness at your own expense. You're being kind without losing your truth. This subtle but profound shift is what the sun in tarot represents, a return to radiance that isn't forced, but flows naturally from within. Imagine it like a lotus that rises through muddy water, not untouched by difficulty, but made more beautiful because of it. You haven't avoided the shadows, you've integrated them. And now, the light you carry is your own. From a cosmic perspective, this kind of joy is not surface-level happiness. It's soul satisfaction. It's knowing that you are no longer seeking permission to feel whole. You are whole, as you are. The relationships forming around you now will begin to mirror this integrity. You'll attract those who appreciate your depth, your calm presence, and your emotional clarity. These aren't connections born from needing to fix or prove. They emerge from a shared resonance, a mutual respect, and a simple desire to be real. In this space, joy no longer comes from approval. It comes from expression. You might laugh more easily, sleep more deeply, wake up with a sense of quiet anticipation. That's because your nervous system is no longer caught in the cycle of people-pleasing or proving your worth. And while it may still feel strange at first, this softness, this lightness, it's real. It's the byproduct of alignment, of truth, of living without apology for the space you take up. At the same time, something deeper is unfolding beneath this light. The universe, in its quiet rhythm, is restoring balance. Those who once took advantage of your compassion, manipulated your empathy, or silenced your instincts will face the natural return of what they put out into the world. You don't need to act on this. There's no revenge to seek, no score to settle. Justice is not yours to foresee, it is already in motion. And in this way, you're protected. Not because someone else is defending you, but because you are no longer abandoning yourself. If you ever feel the urge to revisit those old wounds or confront those who once hurt you, remember this: the truth never needs to shout. It reveals itself in perfect timing. Like light cutting through a crack in the door, it always finds its way in. Your responsibility now is not to carry the weight of what they did. Your responsibility is to continue shining. To choose your own peace over their chaos. To protect your joy like it is sacred because it is. You may find it helpful to visualize a shield of light surrounding you, a gentle but firm energy field that filters what enters and exits your emotional space. You can enhance this protective practice by keeping grounding stones nearby. Obsidian or black tourmaline are especially helpful during times of release and renewal. And if your heart feels called to affirm this transformation, speak it into the space below. Share the words, "I live as I truly am and that is my brightest light." Because you've earned the right to live in your truth. And from here forward, the joy you feel will not be borrowed or negotiated. It will be yours, freely and fully. And now, Libra, as we come to the end of this journey together, I invite you to pause and reflect, not with urgency, but with gentle honesty. Everything you've just heard was never meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to activate something dormant inside you, something sacred and quietly waiting for your permission to rise. If today's message stirred something within, it wasn't by chance. It's because you're ready not to be fixed, but to be fully seen, fully felt, and finally free to choose a path that honors who you truly are. You've walked through the storm. You've listened with courage to truths that were hard to accept. And perhaps, most importantly, you've begun the process of letting go, not out of anger, but out of reverence for your peace. That's what reclaiming your life looks like. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in a quiet knowing, I can't go back to who I was because I've seen who I'm meant to become. You don't have to do it all at once. Transformation doesn't demand perfection. It simply asks for consistency. So, what will you do differently after today? Will you give yourself permission to say no without guilt? To pause before reacting? To write down the things that no longer belong in your space and bless yourself with the courage to release them? Will you make space this week for something that feeds your joy, not your performance, not your image, but your joy? Let these questions settle into you not as burdens, but as invitations. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time for this moment of truth. And the decisions you make from this point forward don't have to be grand to be powerful. They just need to be yours. So, I want to ask you now, with all sincerity, what part of your old self are you most ready to leave behind? What truth do you now feel safe enough to embrace? And what small step will you take in the next 24 hours to prove to yourself that this wasn't just a moment, you are choosing a new movement? Drop your answer in the comments, if you feel called. Say it aloud to yourself. Write it down and tape it to your mirror. Whatever you choose, let it be real. Let it be yours. If this message spoke to your spirit today, if you felt seen, understood, or simply reminded of your own light, I'd love for you to share that below. Comment, I hold the scales for myself and my destiny is shifting. These words are more than affirmations, they are declarations. They anchor the energy you've just received and remind you that this isn't about prediction. It's about participation. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone whose heart might need to hear what you just heard. Your support keeps the flame of Zodiac Whisper Tarot glowing brightly and allows these soul messages to reach the people they were meant for. Thank you, from the deepest part of my heart, for walking this path with me. You didn't just watch a video today. You answered a call. And I promise you, the more you listen to that call, the louder your life will start to speak back with clarity, love, and power. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and remember the light you're looking for has been within you all along.